Well, hello everyone. Lane is here. The new expansion announcement draws closer. But before we close the Shadowlands chapter, I would like to talk about a certain topic that was teased during Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands. The Drust. You may be asking, why Drust now? Why should we even care about them in the first place? Well, their content, Thros, along with its connection with the Emerald Nightmare, were likely cut from Shadowlands. But in my opinion, instead of being completely cut from the story, they were molded into the future story. Let's talk a bit about them, shall we? The Drust, first introduced in Battle for Azeroth, paved the way into the Shadowlands lore back in 2018. It was clear that their magic was a form of death magic or soul magic, but we could not name it during that time. But now, we actually know what kind of power they wield. Anima. Their design resembled the theme of the Shadowlands, and actually, Zoval's armor resembled the Drust theme when he got back his sigil. Also, they used constructs powered by anima if you take a closer look at the material inside their chests. Let us take a closer look at how the Drust have actually appeared in the lore for the first time. According to Wikipedia, they were actually a Rykul clan, so they were Azerothians. They wield powerful death magic, and they were the actual inhabitants of Kulturas region before Gilnean sailors arrived. In short, to avoid extinction, Goraktul, the leader of the Drust, called upon the dark powers of Thros, the Blighted Lands, where the Drust spirits found refuge. But it seems they have been trapped there, because they have been struggling to find their way back ever since. Oddly enough, the Drust we encountered in Shadowlands used portals that resembled the Void rather than that. Now, let us get to the fun part and add some YOGG SARON and Emerald Nightmare into the mix. How? Well, in fact, Thros is not an actual realm of death, but an offshoot of the Emerald Nightmare, according to Wikipedia. As the war went on, the desperate Drust called upon dark powers. Unbeknownst to them, they had reached the Emerald Nightmare. Their fallen warriors would find refuge in Thros, an offshoot of the nightmare, which they named differently as they were not aware of what the nightmare was. Having run out of living warriors in his war, Goraktul began to bind his people's souls to stone constructs. Now, let's get to the Old God and Void part. Let us start with the puzzle box of YOGG SARON, the actual lore connections back in Cataclysm. All places, all things have souls. All souls can be devoured. The void sucks at your soul. It is content to feast slowly. So, as you see, back in Cataclysm, the void was actually interested in devouring souls as much as today. Before the chronicle lore came into play, the Void and the Old Gods were directly tied to death and souls. But what if that is still the case? You resist. You cling to your life as if it actually matters. You will learn. The tortured spirits of your ancestors cling to you, screaming in silence. Apparently, there are quite numerous puzzle blocks of YOGG SARON. As I have said before, the Void, so in this sense, the first ones, try to get as much anima and souls as possible for themselves to deprive Shadowlands of anima, but they are not benevolent beings either. What the hell am I talking about? Check out the videos in the description after watching this one. The Emerald Dream and Ardenweald are connected to each other, so the Emerald Nightmare. This was day 1 information when Shadowlands was announced. And it turns out Thros, the Blighted Lands, is actually a separate part of the Emerald Nightmare, so Thros should be a realm of the Void. If you have played BFA, we actually ventured into Thros, the Blighted Lands, and the theme of the area resembled death rather than the void. Also, Thros is actually behind the veil, which I spoke about a lot, as if there are a bunch of layers and layers inside this veil, with different areas and realms around our physical reality.
Rings. Hide.
Look around, they will all betray you. Flee screaming into the Black Forest. Puzzle Box of YOGG. When you walk among the Black Forest, you will see. Discharge. The Black Forest that the old gods have been mentioning since Cataclysm. Can it be Thros? Maybe. It should not have to be a literal forest, but rather a metaphor. A black forest, probably tied directly to none other than YOGG, who imprisoned the Drust and turned them into subjects to invade Ardenville through using this pathway. Emerald Dream, Emerald Nightmare, Thros, Ardenville. Before connecting every piece of the puzzle into each other, we have to mention, even though briefly, the Una questline back in the end of Legion. Long story short, we find the ghost of a Draenei child trapped inside our reality. We travel across different parts of Warcraft universe to find her toys while providing her a good trip. At some point, Una gets kidnapped by the Void, and we talk with a spirit healer to find out what happened to her. She resides in a place where the barrier between the realms of life and death are thin and spill over into your world. Be warned, you have no power in this place. Its denizens cannot be harmed by mortals. Try as you might, you may not be able to aid your friends. When you came to rescue Una, you find yourself in a place simply called a dark place. Nothing else. And the thing is, the place was really creepy. You find yourself in a dark forest with giant black trees all around. You find Una at the center of the forest and fight against the Soul Eater creatures to protect her. After a certain amount of time, you are overwhelmed. Una destroys the Soul Eaters with a burst of light. Then a beam of light pierces through the darkness and takes Una into safety. Until that light would exhaust itself and inevitably turn into the void, of course. Actually, I am still not sure if the Black Forest was Thros or the dark place we went into to rescue Una, but I am sure about one thing: the creation of the Drust was tied to YOGG and Nightmare. The Drust invaded Ardenweald with full force and even threatened the Winter Queen herself with their domination-like magic. Also, Thros, the Blighted Lands, has an actual entrance, a great tree named Golinat, just like Shaladresi. According to our theory, Yogg-Saron also finds his way into Shadowlands through the connection between Icecrown Citadel and Torghast. Remember that the ICC was built by Saronite, the Black Blood of Yogg-Saron, and the Natrism ordered it to do so. This means Sir Denatrius actually helped Yogg-Saron to spread his influence inside the Shadowlands, and this theory was almost confirmed when the jailer revealed that Forge of Souls was the key of his plan. He kind of sucked the soul of Azeroth from a building covered by the blood of Yogg-Saron. I want you to think about that before the expansion reveal this Thursday. So, this was all for this week. I actually wanted to talk about this topic for a long time, so before we leave the Shadowlands, for good I guess, I just wanted to point out these connections. See you next week, we will have a lot to talk about. Stay safe.